It had required more reading and research than I had initially thought, but today we are going to be covering the first edition Pathfinder Slayer talents. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire, here to bring you the next part of the first edition Pathfinder Slayer's Guide, today covering their talents. Originally, I had been hoping to cover feats alongside with this, but I did not know what I did not know. To be honest, as I'd said, I've only ever had one player take the Slayer class, and that player has not made it super far along in terms of levels for the class, so I have really been researching and reading up on a lot, and there's a lot that I did not know that I did not know. So, with that recent illumination upon me, we are not covering feats along with this today, although you'd be surprised because somehow there's still a fair number of them that have ended up in with all of this. But before we get into everything that we'll have on offer for you today, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of dapper and legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now we'll actually start talking about the Slayer's talents, and of course, just as a quick refresher for everybody, at 2nd level and every 2 levels after, you may select a Slayer talent from a list comprising Ranger combat styles and Rogue talents, which are the parent classes for the Slayer, allowing a great deal of customization. Humans also gain 1 additional talent for every 6 levels of Slayer that they get from their favorite class bonus. These open up a great deal of customization, though which are best depends on your build. At level 10 you can take advanced talents. Ranger combat styles also give access to feats while skipping the normal prerequisites. And just another thing to note that unless otherwise specifically noted, you're only allowed to take a Ranger talent or a Slayer talent once. Now, depending on the Slayer talent, that can be a little bit tricky. For example, Combat Trick, which is a rogue talent, allows you to select a combat feat, which, you know, as long as the rogue talent says as long as you're selecting a different feat each time, you can take that talent multiple times. And that therein lies kind of some of the trickiness. Now, for the Ranger's combat styles, it's pretty clear cut. It says, you know, you're able to make 3 feat selections at each time that it becomes viable for all of them to come up. But some of the talent options do kind of fall into a little bit of a gray area with how ambiguously they can end up being written, so it's worthwhile to check with your DM first before you start selecting things multiple times. But even if your DM rules that you're only able to select an option once, even if it's something like Combat Trick that does open up a feat for you, that's still worth taking because feats can do a lot for you, especially in the face of some other options. But depending on the build that you're going for, some options may be much, much better than others. So don't be afraid to play around and experiment a little bit. And DMs out there, if your player makes a choice that really kind of conflicts with their overall build and it's not something that really gels for them or it's not working out so great, I would recommend a little bit of leniency in being able to allow them to reselect, respec, you know, just say, hey, can I just have a mulligan on this one? You know, it's not working out as well as I thought. I would recommend a little bit of leniency, especially if they or you have never really run a Slayer before. So just something to keep in mind there. But now let's actually start diving into the rest of everything that we have on hand here, which to start off with, at level 2, we are going to pick up Ranger Combat Style Archery. This kicks in at level 2, 6, and 10. Your best choices, since you're going with archery for this particular build, are going to be either Rapid Shot, which gives you 2 attacks at your highest base attack bonus with a -2 attack penalty, or Precise Shot, which allows you to ignore the -4 attack penalty for shooting into a melee. we're going to go rapid shot with this because especially at early levels, you're going to be very comfortable diving into melee along with the rest of your allies. But even still, if you decide you're just going to go pure archery, precise shot still will not be a bad choice for you at all. It's just in this instance, rapid shot is going to work out much better. Then at level 6, we're going to take Point Blank Master, which allows us to fire in melee without provoking attacks of opportunity, really allowing you to go to town and also negating the need for precise shot. Then by level 10, we are going to pick up Many Shot, which allows you to fire an extra arrow on your first attack. So essentially, extra damage right there for free. And if you're flanking, well, that's extra sneak attack dice as well. All the way around, a really, really solid option for you to have, and a really good series of feats for you to have as well. And also, just bear in mind, since we're going with the high strength build, or even if you're balancing strength and dexterity as the alternate option we discussed before, this is really going to play to your strengths and allow you to, if you need to, switch to melee, especially if you're two-handing a weapon, such as a greatsword or a great axe, or any weapon really that allows you to go two hands and get that strength and a half bonus to damage. You'll be sitting pretty comfortably, although sticking with your bow will still allow you a great deal of tactical flexibility, especially with Point Blank Master, because, oh no, the enemy wizard has suddenly started to fly away! Well, no problem, you've got a bow, and rapid shot, you can put a ton of arrows into the air and really, really ruin that wizard's day all the way around there. But now let's keep on going here, next to Trapfinding, which we pick up at level 4. Add 1/2 your Slayer level to perception checks to find traps and disable device checks to disarm them. Disable device, incidentally, does become a class skill for you. You also gain trap sense, giving a +1 bonus on reflex saves to avoid traps and a +1 dodge bonus to your armor class from attacks made by traps. And these bonuses increase by 1 at level 6, 9, 12, 15, and 18. So it's a scaling bonus that will stick with you for the entirety of your career. Now, I will say that if you have a rogue or say a vigilante with the ability to find traps, then this may not be as important of an option, but given how some DMs can be entirely devious with traps, excuse me, it may be worthwhile to have an extra set of eyes that are capable of finding them and able to disable them. And also note that disable device is an incredibly useful skill, so having it become a class skill for you is great, because then you put 1 rank into it and you get that +3 miscellaneous modifier. And since disable device works off of your dexterity, and you have at least a +2, maybe a +3 to dexterity at this level, you're looking at what? 1 rank, +3 modifier, +3 from dex. You're looking at a +7 right there already, and then another +2 from 1/2 your level, since at this point you're level 4. You're looking at a +9 bonus to disable device, while only putting 1 rank into it. And you can certainly invest more if you feel compelled to do so. So all the way around, you're going to be pretty handy at disabling devices and getting rid of traps and negating the potential that they have to cause harm to you and the rest of your party, making you all the way around a really, really diverse, dynamic, and broadly applicable character. Really, really a good choice for you. And then, of course, we have Deadly Range kicking in at level 6. Now, some guides kind of go back and forth on how valuable this really is, but I think this is very, very useful because it adds a 10-foot range bonus to your ranged sneak attack range. That's a whole lot of range there. I could have come up with a better way of saying that. But normally, you're only allowed to apply your sneak attack damage dice to ranged attacks up to 30 feet. Expanding that out to another 10 feet does really add on to your overall lethality, and you can select Deadly Range multiple times if you want, but I think once is more than enough. Even though if you're going with human you get extra Slayer talents, I'd say that this is probably good. A one-time pick is good enough. And then when we come to level 8, we're going to take Combat Trick, and we're going to take Point Blank Shot for a +1 attack and damage against targets within 30 feet. Now, normally, Point Blank Shot is not an incredibly popular feat. It's a +1 bonus to attack and damage. It's mainly only taken because it's a prerequisite for a lot of other ranged combat feats. But since we are taking options like Point Blank Master, and we're going to be using Rapid Shot or Mini Shot or even Deadly Aim when we get to our feat section, this is actually going to do more than most for others, since we're going to be engaging in ranged combat at a relatively close range in order to take advantage of the fact that we are going to deal sneak attack damage. Now, you still need to be in a flanking position to do so, but using Many Shot with Point Blank Shot and then using Deadly Aim, you're negating the penalty being taken from Deadly Aim, and the fact that you're getting the flanking bonus also helps to offset any penalties you might be taking. Means you're going to be making some pretty solid, accurate attacks that are going to hit for heavy damage, and you're going to be getting sneak attack on all of that as well. So all the way around, it's an incredible combination that is going to be massively useful for you. And though if enemies get beyond that 40-foot range that we're now operating at for our sneak attack damage, you're still going to be able to shoot at them and still deal a considerable amount of damage to them overall. All the way around, I say that phrase a lot too, but in many different situations, you are going to be a very capable, very active participant in any combat that you're participating in. Adding on to that, we have slow reactions at level 12. An enemy damaged by the Slayer's sneak attack can't make attacks of opportunity for 1 round. So this opens up a whole range of safety for your allies, because by the time you hit level 12, attacks of opportunity are going to be something that can come up a lot, especially if you're going up against an opponent like, well, Merilith was the first thing that popped up to mind, but opponents that have combat reflexes, and even if they only have a 14 for dex, that's 3 attacks of opportunity. 3 attacks of opportunity can deal out an incredible amount of damage, so negating that for even a single round can save your party from a lot of pain and hurt, and really save your resources for further and further combats. Then, as our level 12 bonus, if you're going with human or another race that offers up an extra talent as a favorite class bonus, we're going to take Evasion. Now, this is later for you to get than many other classes, such as the Rogue, but it's still worth it because you completely negate damage on a successful reflex save. So, since enemy wizards like throwing out things like Fireball or Lightning Bolt, making a successful reflex save, which you do have good reflexes and a solid dexterity score to back it up, you're going to completely negate damage frequently enough that this is going to be worth its weight to you in all the other, well, not all the other Slayer talents, but still significantly valuable. And then moving on from there, we have one of our lesser choices on hand. It's not bad, but it's Aligned Sneak Attack at level 14. Targets with damage reduction overcome by certain alignments is overcome by 1 point for each sneak attack die that you have. So, say you hit the point where you have 5 sneak attack dice. If the target has damage reduction of 10, unless you're hitting them with a good aligned weapon, well, now it's only damage reduction 5. And damage reduction 5 is certainly much better to have, especially using a bow to attack enemies. It's going to allow more damage to bypass them. It's useful, but not as valuable as it could be, except for the fact that it is a prerequisite for our next Slayer talent, Sever Alignment at level 16. You forego your sneak attack dice to undo an alignment subtype for the target. For example, outsiders, so good aligned or evil aligned outsiders. You undo their metaphysical nature. When the attack hits, the target must make a Fortitude save DC 10 plus 1/2 your Slayer level, plus your intelligence modifier, or they lose all damage reduction and regeneration that's overcome by aligned weapons. They also lose the ability to cast spells and spell-like abilities with alignment descriptors for 1 round for every 2d6 sneak attack dice. A minimum of 1 there, so that is huge. Even though a lot of creatures that have alignments as part of their type, they will have good fortitude saves, just bear in mind that those DCs are increased if they are a studied target for you. So, since they're a studied target, this does make the fortitude saves more difficult for them. And bear in mind that it's just when they're damaged by an attack from sneak attack dice, and since you're going to have multiple attacks with an extra attack from many shot, you actually have a decent chance of actually getting one of these to go through and negating their damage reduction, their regeneration, and taking out a significant number of their spells or spell-like abilities, and really hamper their ability to affect you and the rest of your party. So Sever Alignment is massively useful, absolutely worth the grab. In fact, I wouldn't blame somebody for scooting these choices a little bit further, because by level 16 this is going to be useful. Heck, by level 14 Sever Alignment can be very useful depending on the campaign and the opponents being thrown at you. So definitely play around with the order here a little bit, and this is worth mentioning again. These guides are just that. They're guides. Take it all with a grain of salt. These are useful and effective options, and this build and array certainly will work for you, but none of this is set in stone. All of this is incredibly useful, and depending on the campaign, the order in which that you take these different options can vary wildly. I mean, you can play around with this, adjust and finesse things around all that you want. Hell, maybe you don't even want to do an archery build. Maybe you want to be a switch hitter, being able to go back and forth from archery to melee. Or you want to be a 2-weapon fighter or sword and shield fighter, which, still taking 2-weapon fighting in that instance can be useful, opening up some shield bash options and the like, but maybe you want to go with firearms training. All of these options are open and available to you, and I highly encourage you to experiment and play around with all these different things, because the wild array of viable builds that are out there is just staggering. And really, at the end of the day, as long as you, your party, the DM are all having fun, nobody's done anything wrong in those instances. So go with it. Go with what is most fun for you and your friends, and have fun. Now let's wrap this up here, and really, it's a simple way to wrap it up, because at level 18, it kind of just boils down to player choice. Because really, you have most everything you need at this point. It's hard to really pick something that isn't an extra feat, and we've already taken a bunch of those already, either through the Ranger combat style or just the various other options that have cropped up. And really, trap finding isn't necessarily even the most important thing. Maybe if you already have a rogue or a vigilante or some other class and option that has trap finding, maybe you want to go into heavy armor. There are Slayer talents that open up heavy armor for you, functioning like the heavy armor proficiency feat. And that can do a lot for your survivability. Put you more on par with fighters and paladins in your ability to duke it out and survive in combat. Though in that instance, maybe you're better off going with a two-handed weapon, but really, a Slayer in plate mail with a longbow, a composite longbow going to town on people, that's a hell of a cool image in my mind. So again, play around with everything and have fun, and just take this guide for what it is. It's just a guide. But then again, what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Hit the like or dislike buttons either way, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below so that we can engage in discussion. And remember, if you're new here to the channel, then go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.